to another episode of Control Alt Access. It's an accessibility in video games focused video and audio podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Laura, and I'm here as ever with my lovely co-host, Arevia. How are you doing?
Hi, Laura. I'm doing good, and I'm here with Luna. She's so quietly sleeping next to me. So if anybody
Oh,
is
that's
watching the
adorable.
video right now, they will see a shadow on the screen. That is my dog, Luna. She's just been...
Aw.
Sadly, last week she got her tooth pulled. She's getting
Oh
older.
no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So...
Our cat's getting older. She threw up a little earlier today and was just like, oh, I'll just give her a little look after.
Yeah.
You're all right.
I think Luna had it horrible last week, like the day after the operation, of course. But right now,
Yeah.
she is living her best life because she's getting soft food. And it's like high quality soft food. She's still pining every time I'm going to give her food. But yeah, other than Luna, I'm also doing good. I've talked a lot about like struggling with a burnout and struggling with my health, but I have been constant of trying to keep up, like keeping my pulse down, and I'm seeing the end of this problem now.
Yay! I'm
Yeah.
glad. Hooray for taking the time needed for a body to get back a baseline.
Yeah, and most of it, like, I am also so incredibly, like, honored and gracious. No, that's the wrong word. Well, honored of like my friends and like my followers on social media, on Twitter and stuff, on Twitch and stuff, and like my friends like you have given me room to take care. Like,
I mean, look, I can't speak for anyone else, but if I can't give my friends in the accessibility space room when needed, like, I shouldn't be in this space if I
Yeah.
can't be like, oh no, yeah, sometimes disability happens.
Yes.
It's all good.
but it's been so lovely. Like, people have sent me a message say that they miss me, they miss my stream, they miss
Aw.
my YouTubes and TikToks and everything. But also every time they have also sent it, but this is not a pressure for you to come back. This is just so that you know you are loved, you know.
That's a good sign that you've surrounded yourself with the right people.
Yeah. So to be honest, this
Aw.
week I have to say I'm feeling really good. How about you, Laura?
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm feeling really good too. I'm having one of those weeks where I'm like, I'm feeling productive and I'm doing new projects and things are working out well and I'm feeling on top of the world this week.
Good. We need that sometimes. We do need that. I also finally can talk about, so I did talk a bit about the fact that I had a workshop and I can finally name them.
Yes.
So I did
Yeah.
a workshop for Toka Boca, which is they make games for kids. And that was really, really interesting because accessibility and kids go so hand in hand, especially with the
Yes.
cognitive and motor accessibility, because you aren't born like your audio and eyesight. You sort of are born, or you will develop it, of course, over time. But we are often born with hearing, the ability to hear quite well and the ability to see quite well. But that's the opposite for the motor accessibility and cognitive accessibility.
Yeah.
We're born with that really, really, really bad. Like, we have a lot of barriers. So
I imagine it's one of those things where a lot of the things we talk about for cognitive and motor accessibility also apply to, generally speaking, people who don't have a lot of familiarity with video games.
Yes.
Which is also people who are developing those skills generally for the first time. They don't have, like, the built-in library of understanding of what games are asking for, plus it's hard to know stuff at that age.
And it was been so fascinating. It was so fun being and holding that workshop. One, because you have told me, because like you helped me a lot by like getting ready for this workshop since it was my first, and you told like that when you go over to them and you start talking to developers, you don't understand how amazingly good they are at their work before you work with them, and like you will see how creative they are, how good they are at solving problems. And it was sort of like seeing the light that goes up in their eyes when you say something and it starts their brain to like working, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah, we talked about that workshop a bit in advance, because I've run some similar ones in the past, and one of the things I'm a big believer in working these kind of workshops is give them the tools that you would, like, show them the tools you would use to solve these problems, and then don't lead them too much and go, just sit and brainstorm. How would you get around some of these problems? And it's really interesting seeing people who aren't already in the space come up with novel solutions to accessibility barriers. It's like, yes, you're not predetermined with what you think the answer is. This is great.
And it's also so nice because I like making a space where people feel safe. I think that is so important. And one of the things we did, or one of the things when we talked about it, was that I talked a lot about how I also wanted them to respond to me, like how are we going to do this space together. And what happened was that during this workshop, people started sharing experience they had themselves with the need for accessibility and meeting barriers in games, and they felt so comfortable sharing. And also it sort of ended up being like a, hey, we have ways here to solve these problems. We have also expertise inside our own building. We just haven't thought about it before. And it was just really, really cool. I'm still like I got to post about it. Yeah, I got to post about it, and I'm like living on that high again now.
I'm so happy it went so well. Like, I was confident it would. You were so well prepared. You'd thought everything through, and you know your stuff. I was like, I know it's gonna go great. But hearing that it had gone great, I was like, yeah, you did it.
We did it. Yeah, and it was just so much fun. But Laura, enough about me. What have you been playing this last couple of weeks?
I've been playing a few things. I can rattle through some of them. I'm going to start with one that isn't a thing I've played, but it's a thing that I just want to promote while we're here because it's also accessibility and games related. I've started a new little mini series that's up on YouTube now. The first episode is up, called Abletop, which is a board game and tabletop gaming accessibility show that I've started with Carrie Waterton, who we've talked about here before.
Yay!
So yeah, this is a similar sort of format of like a video with occasionally cut-in clips as this show, Ctrl-Alt-Access, but it is 6-hour-long episodes that are going to be going up every Wednesday for the next 6 weeks, focused on different topics of board game accessibility. So like the first episode that's just gone up was about accessibility in rule books and teaching games. I think next week is vision accessibility. We've got one on motor accessibility, one on cognitive. We've got this 6-week series of trying to, in 6 hours, teach as much of the basics of board game accessibility as we can. And I'm so happy with how it's turned out and how people are enjoying it so far.
I'm really glad because, well, I'm not going to assume, but I assume anyways a bit that maybe this podcast have inspired that, because it seems a bit inspired to do other things like that, and I'm happy about that.
It's we've been doing this for, we're coming up on a year of having done Ctrl-Alt-Access, and I was like, I'm comfortable enough with the format and with like the what the editing pipeline's going to be and stuff that I was like, I'd like to do more stuff in this format. And Carrie was on my list of people I wanted to find an excuse to work with.
Oh, but she's so amazing.
Yeah, it was seeing some of the stuff last year Carrie worked on to do with board game accessibility that we talked about a little bit about here that made me go, ooh, I remember having really good board game conversations with Carrie at GA Conf last year. I should see if there's something here, and it's been really fun having an excuse to work on, even if it's just like a little 6-week project.
Oh, but it's so much fun.
It's been really nice.
And I think maybe that is a smart thing also, to limit it to 6 weeks. You have like an itinerary so people can like look it up. This is specifically what I'm looking for, and I can look it up.
That's the thought, is like, it's less of an ongoing reviews or news series. It's like, hey, this is just a developer resource, and maybe we add to it in the future, but for now, it's a condensed thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I have been playing some games. I've been playing quite a few games this week, this last couple of weeks. Some of them I don't need to talk about in any particular depth. Where shall I start? I'm going to start with Elden Ring Nightreign, a game that I have weirdly more positive accessibility thoughts about than I thought I would have.
Okay.
It's not all positives, but Elden Ring Nightreign is Elden Ring, the From Software, everything is out there trying to murder you, try not to get murdered game. And Elden Ring Nightreign is sort of like a fast-paced multiplayer one of these. It's almost like Fortnite. You get dropped in a map and there's a shrinking circle and you're getting brought closer and closer together. But it's all cooperative. You are playing with other people. Anytime you try and fight these big bosses from Elden Ring, and there's lots of past Souls game bosses, you are fighting them cooperatively as a group of players. There is no incentive not to help each other. There's mechanics for if you get knocked out and run out of health, your other players can come help you back up, so you don't have to spawn back at the last bonfire. You can just help each other up and keep fighting. And in some ways, it's weirdly more accessible than the main Elden Ring, in as much as there's a lot of things that reduce cognitive load.
Yeah.
When you go to level up, you're not picking from like 15 different stats to level up. It's just level up the stat. You level up, and it automatically like levels you up what is appropriate. You don't have to make your very intricate build. You just pick a starting character that's like, I want to be the one with a dagger that can replay damage. I want to be the magic one. And when you level up, it just like automatically upgrades the right stats for that build.
Yeah.
You don't have to like, there is no ability to like sit and stress about like, where should I go? This is too big a world. What am I supposed to be doing? The circle shrinking in kind of forces you to pick a direction to be like, I don't want to be where the wall of fire that's coming at me is.
Yeah.
So like you're encouraged, you've got sort of an objective in mind, and because you're playing it in multiplayer with other people that can help you up, you've got other people to like take the boss's focus, so they're not always fighting you, so you've got more room to like step back and have your health. You can help each other up, so like you are, you know, running out of health doesn't mean, oh, I lost all my souls and I've got to start this fight from the beginning. They can get you back up and the fight keeps going. And because it's a sort of Fortnite kind of style game where, like, you know, at most it's going to last an hour, you're expecting you're going to lose most of the times you play it. It's not like, oh, I can't beat this boss in Dark Souls. I can't progress the game because I can't beat the one thing that's blocking my progression. It's, if we lost to that one boss, next time we do a run, we'll go somewhere else on the map and fight a different thing for experience.
I'm quite... I don't know what I'm thinking, but I'm shocked actually to hear this a bit. Like, I'm happy because accessibility and yada yada. Always happy about that. But what I'm a bit shocked about is that FromSoft have been so hard on keeping the difficulty. Like, difficulty is like the thing for them.
Here's what I will say about it. A lot of people who play Souls games will discourage you from using mechanics that make the game easier that the developers put in.
That's true.
Like, summoning other NPC players, using the mimic tier to give you a little clone of yourself to help you fight. Those things are all things in the game that can make the game easier to play, that the developers clearly put there because they wanted you to use them.
That's
and,
true.
You know,
that's true.
Purists will tell you, oh, you have to not use those or you're not playing it right. This game feels like Elden Ring's developers going, no, we put those mechanics in so you would get help, so that you would have something else distracting the boss. Okay, fine. If you're going to all refuse to use those mechanics, here's a game where you have to use them.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of this one. Use those mechanics we design. Play the game as we intended, where sometimes something distracts the boss.
And I like also, because I had to look it up a bit, and it says it's a cooperative spin-off. So it's not a DLC, and it's a spin-off game. And I think that is where the really pressure should be, that this is a spin-off. This is not Elden Ring with friends, because technically we already have that, since you can jump into each other's game. This is a spin-off in the same universe with other ways of looking at it. But that's cool, though. I'm glad that we are having more accessibility. Like, every time I'm watching my husband play this kind of game, I'm just like, there are so many possibilities for accessibility in this, and there are still some accessibility in them. So yeah,
I do want to know, it's not all accessibility positives, particularly on the cognitive side, because of the fact that, like, this circle is shrinking in on you. You have to make decisions very quickly. Like, there's items and weapons and things to pick up everywhere, and you have to very quickly decide, do I want that, do I not? Let's keep moving. You can't be quite as take your time with a boss, because you know that circle's closing in. You have to play a bit more aggressively.
Yeah.
And these things, like, it's some trade-offs.
Yeah.
There are some aspects of it that are going to be a little more cognitively difficult, some that are going to be a little more cognitively easy. It depends on your personal experience, like, whether that's ultimately going to be helpful. For me, I found it a lower cognitive barrier to jump in and play, and that was not an experience I expected to have with something Elden Ring related.
But I'm glad to hear it. It might open up this universe for more people, and it also might be letting people dare to try Elden Ring. It is a really
Yeah,
good game. Like, in general, accessibility or not, it is a good game. It is one of
yeah,
the best games we have had the last couple of years. And as you said, there are a lot of classes and ways in the game that you can just play and have fun and make it easier. So maybe
yeah,
it will lower this get good attitude a lot of the community has.
yeah.
So it will
It
open the doors for more people.
I think there's going to be a lot of people who hear I can play Elden Ring, but I don't have to think about like the weight of my items making my roll slower, and am I the right class loadout to be able to
Yes.
equip this weapon with peak efficiency, and just go, nah, just pick the cool thing and run with my friends, and if we die together.
Yes.
Um, Other things I've played, I don't know if you've had a chance to check this out. I played some Dawnfolk
Yes.
this last couple of weeks. Have you had a chance to check it out?
I did. Yes.
It's so good,
It
right?
is so much fun. I love these kinds of game, and I love like these because it is a mid-max gaming, but you don't only need to min-max. You can still continue without min-maxing, which is just I'm having so much fun with it.
Yes. So, for anyone who's not played it, the gist of it is that this is a top-down city builder on a square grid. I don't know exactly how wide and far down it is, but this grid of squares that you explore. You explore the map little by little. You have this resource that is light that you can use to explore more squares and expand how far you can see. And each map that you're doing city building on is a unique biome that will have its own positives and challenges. So, like your default starting one, you can build tents in open fields, you can collect wood from forests, you can get adjacency bonuses. So if you make a church near the houses, you get little extra bonus things. But then maybe the next biome you go to has very little grassland, so it's quite hard to make food. So you're having to find creative other ways to make food in this environment, or and sometimes you'll have other little objectives like, oh, you need to explore enough to find all the goblin camps on this map. And rather than being one city builder that like expands eternally, like something like a Satisfactory or a Factorio, this is you have your objectives and you do your little your story mode and your objectives in your city build, and then you're done with your objectives, and it's like, okay, do you want to keep city building just because you're having a nice chill time? And like we'll turn off some of the threats and you can just have a relaxed time? Or do you want to move on to the next environment and start afresh? So you're never having to build too complex of a city at any one time.
And you can also unlock endless mode after some time, which is also cool. Then it's just like build to your hearts how much you want. So I had a lot of fun with it, but I had some positive notes with accessibility and some a bit disappointing things. The first positive thing was actually just this game is really made to use a controller. It even says to you when you start it, like, we recommend you play it with a controller. I actually got to play it with my Xbox joystick because it is so simple with how it is set up that you can
it's 4 directions and 1 button input.
Yes, almost. The only thing I had like a bit problem with here was that one, you cannot button remap, which I always feel like today that I want to see that. And also, but I wonder if this was a bug, because I played it the day it came out, and as we all know, no matter how much playtesting you do, it will never be equal to thousands of people playing it at the same time. They will find bugs that others just, you won't be able to, and no matter how much money you have, you won't be able to find it before you release the game. And the one I found is that when I ever plugged out my controller, it wouldn't recognize my keyboard. So when I then played it with the joysticks, is I had then have limited amount of buttons and I cannot remap. I sometimes ended up being not able to continue because it asked me to use a button, like it asked me to zoom in, and I was just like, well, now I'm locked out. Now I need to close the game, start it with the keyboard, and then play up to there with the keyboard, and then go back. So
it's a little awkward in that I do appreciate that it does support controller and it plays nice with controller. On a keyboard, you can do it with WASD and spacebar, and
Yeah.
that works well. You can play it with just a mouse.
Mhm.
But the problem is, these are distinct modes. Like, if you want to play with with just the mouse, you have to go in the settings and find the I'm using the mouse, not the keyboard
Yeah.
setting. This isn't like the biggest barrier in the world, but it is one of those things where not being able to hot switch between control schemes is not ideal.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I'm so used to nowadays to be able to just whenever I touch my keyboard, the game just understands it. So
Yeah.
that was a bit weird. But again, it was slightly a bit on me for actually trying it with a controller that is technically not out. So, like, if the mistakes were between me or the Xbox or the game, I cannot say for sure.
No,
so,
but I think there is something to the fact of not being able to hot switch with, like, oh, the most recently moved input is the controller that's being used, is a standard that I appreciate in games when they're...
And I really enjoyed that you could pause. So the game is you have not a day cycle, or not a day cycle, but every day you get resources. And then you can decide how quick you want to go over to the next day. You can either just have the game on pause and just every time you want to go to the next day, you just click a button and then it goes to the next day. So sort of almost ends up being like a tabletop game where you do your actions and then you say, okay, now it's the next day. And I loved that.
Yeah. And I love that if you put it in fast forward, it goes so fast.
Yes.
It's like, hey, I just want to watch that number go up really quick and like I'll stop it when the number's where I want it to be.
Yep.
And there's so rarely interruptions. Like, you know, the dark storm might come in and you need to be aware that that's coming, but the rain starting will give you a heads up. Like, you might get paused to answer a what do you want to do question. But generally speaking, it's like, yeah, I can just skip forward, like, a few seconds and I'll have the resources I need. I can just skip forward to when I have them.
Yeah, no, this was a really lovely game. And a lot of these kind of block games or puzzle games in this kind of genre where you have, like, squares are often quite complicated. Like Panorama or... Bubblegum Square, whatever it's called. Like, these games are often they start easy and then it got hard.
Yeah.
Because in a lot of normally in these kinds of games, you yourself put in the square you want there, or you can move things, so you can like sort of it gets it to a second layer, which is fun. But it makes it so much more complicated. So for me, this feels like an easier introduction to these kinds of game, which is why I recommend it, because it is easy.
Yeah, it's never felt too overwhelming at any time. It's always felt like a very approachable, gentle level of challenge, and I'm here for that.
Yeah, and they have hardcore mode. So if you want anything, just like you can get your butt kicked. It's okay if you want that.
Yeah, there's a lot of nice little bits about it. I appreciate that you can turn off the little mini games that you do for collecting extra resources, and that if you turn them off, you get the default of like, yeah, you get all the extra resources. We'll assume you did the minigame perfectly if you turn the minigames off.
Yep.
And I'm glad that that's the assumption they made there.
Yep. Yeah, because it's normally the other way around.
Yeah, it's if you turn them off, you don't get any of the bonuses. It's like, no, we'll assume you did well. It's fine. Yeah, it's just a very charming game.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun with it in my downtime between other things.
Yeah, and it also doesn't feel like a game where you need to sit off a big chunk of time to play it. Because you can save it whenever. So say you are on day 72 and this is a run that will go to 200 days and something happens. Just pause, save, and come back to the game whenever.
It's a very nice pick up and play kind of experience.
Yeah. It's almost something that I wish they were for like the Nintendo DS or my phone. Because then I can just play it on my commute doing for work.
Yeah. Exactly. So very quickly, other bits that I'll talk about a little bit. I played the first half of Lost Records, Bloom and Rage, which is a game by Dontnod, who were the original team behind Life is Strange, and then moved on to do Tell Me Why. They do choose-your-own-adventure narrative kind of games. And this one, really, really interesting. it's split between two time periods. You have all of your characters are a bunch of adults. I believe they are 43 years old in the current day. And 27 years ago, when they were 16-year-olds in 1995, they had this summer where they like became friends, started a band together, and then something supernatural happened. And they all left that town and promised never to speak of it again or ever see each other again. And none of them can quite remember what happened that one weird summer. And then as adults, one of them gets a package addressed to the band they made when they were like 16 that no one should know about. Being like, remember what happened that summer? And understandably a bit terrified, all of the adults come back together to open this package together and find out what it is. So this first half is like learning about that summer. But the thing that I think is really interesting is you're playing as these like 16-year-olds having their like very queer female summer. It's adorable. It's a bunch of 16-year-old queer girls like starting a punk band together, and it's wonderful. But every now and then you'll hear dialogue from the adult versions of those characters chiming in with like their opinion of what they were doing at the time. And it's nice to have that, like, one of them will do something stupid and teenager-ish, and they'll be like, yeah, no, I was completely lying, I was just trying to make you all think I was cool. And it's nice to have that adult perspective on their childhood actions as you're exploring the adventure.
That sounds good because maybe an unpopular opinion. I'm a bit over playing teenager games because I'm not a teenager anymore. And sometimes when I play like I loved Life is Strange when it came out because I was younger. But now when I play it, I'm like I still love it. It's nothing about that, but I also get I get a bit more annoyed of teenagers being teenagers. And so then it's nice to have this interruption of a grown-up going like, yeah.
It's the thing. I think they do a better job of having these teenagers be a little less annoying than some games in this genre have done before. But also, yeah, just by having them acknowledge occasionally, like, look, that was a really foolish thing.
Yeah.
I was dumb and full of hormones. Like, forgive me. It's nice to have that a bit of awareness in context that I think helps a lot.
Yes.
And I do think the adult versions of the characters are really lovely, and I'm really happy with how they've like handled two very different versions of these people. A couple of things I think are important to know about accessibility for this game, and one of them I'll address first is being patched. The developers have acknowledged this is a problem. This game has a photosensitivity warning, but it was hidden behind a do you want to see content warning spoilers for potentially upsetting content toggle.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So there was and I think this is a good way to handle the content warning stuff, is you can press a button and it will reveal what content warning stuff is there if you have like specific triggers you need to know about. So it's not spoiling it unless you opt into having it spoiled. But they put the photosensitivity warning in there, which is not where it should be. But they are changing that in the next patch, apparently.
Good.
And the other complaint on photosensitivity I've seen that goes hand in hand with the positives about content warnings, there's a QR code you can scan that will take you to like a really good, very detailed content warning description that's like very specific examples of what's going to come up, telling you like what chapters and scenes, like if you want to avoid this thing, here's when to be aware of it.
Yep.
But it also in there has the photosensitivity warning again, but all it says is flashing lights. And I've seen people criticize, and I think fairly, you've gone into so much detail about like where and what kind of things are going to come up for content warnings. You could have done the same for photosensitivity to go, you know, we can't catch everything, but these are some scenes you might want to be aware are places we have flagged as like we recognize there's issues in these chapters.
I am wondering, have they made any comment about that? Because I'm wondering if it has anything to do with legality.
Yeah, so I suspect it is to do with legality. I don't know how much you can or can't say there.
Yeah.
But this is a conversation I've had with a lot of photosensitive people this year, is about the fact that a lot of them would go, we would really like a warning that says, this is not a comprehensive list, but these are some scenes that we can warn you are likely triggers. We cannot tell you this is comprehensive. They would appreciate that information being there, but, you know, whether that is possible, who knows?
Yes.
But just, as I'd seen it be a criticism raised for this game, I wanted to sort of make it known.
Yeah. And also this is a way for, if you are a developer and listening to this, the second or second episode we ever did was together at GIConf. There are where we talked about a specific tool that is now out where you can run your game through so that you get back a list of where you should have warnings and stuff like that. So there are tools
EA's
now.
Iris.
Yes.
Yeah, EA's Iris is an open source tool that you can use, and it seems to be a pretty effective, like, here is a basic list of, like, the things that are probably a problem.
Yes. So use that and misuse it for all it's worth.
The only other thing I'll say accessibility-wise, and this is not like a big issue, but it's a thing to be aware of, the scenes where you are an adult are in first person. The ones where you are being a teenager in the past are in third person. So if you are someone that occasionally finds first person stuff a little motion sickness, be aware there is first person content. It is infrequent. It's not like... I would say it's less than, like, 5 to 10% of the game at most.
Yeah.
And it's largely being sat at a table having conversations with other people, so it's not like you're walking around a lot in first person. There is some head bob while you're walking, but you can turn head bob off.
Oh, good.
And you can turn on a center screen reticle. So, like, as someone that has motion sickness issues, I didn't have a problem with it, but it's worth being aware it's there. But yeah, I'm not going to... Because we've got a slightly shorter episode this week, I'm not going to go into depth too much on too many of the other things. I started playing Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. It's very fun, very silly, goofy pirate game.
I saw your TikTok about it, and it made me laugh.
The musical number out of nowhere, the very classic Pirates of Penzance musical number was wonderful.
Yep.
It's very silly. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And I'm glad it has a high contrast mode added to it, which is I believe, a first for the series. So that's good. And the last one that I've not had a chance to play, but I just wanted to promote because we both are sort of to do with this one. A game called Cabernet came out this past week.
Yep.
Which we both did some accessibility consulting work on that game.
We did.
There's a video that I will link in the description of, you can see us doing accessibility playtesting for this game.
Yep.
It's a game about being a vampire, and you do skill checks and drink wine, and I very much enjoyed what I saw of it, and I'm gonna try and check it out properly before we next record. So yeah, what about you? What have you been playing this week other than Dawnfolk?
So yeah, what have I been playing this week? I have taken a look at Avowed. I was lucky enough that I asked my Xbox contact, can I get an Xbox Game Pass? They said yes. Oh my god, thank you so much Xbox for that. Got a year of it, and they were just like, no, you can check out. And I was just like, yes. And oh my god, yes, please. But also, meh. That is my impression of the game, and let me go into details here, but I have so much. I am like, when I said earlier that I'm started making content again, like, I'm writing a YouTube about it. How much I actually have to say about this game. But it is... Obsidian and Xbox are two brands that are known to do a lot of good accessibility work. And when I saw that they were going to make Avowed, I got really, really happy, because... For people who don't know what it is, it's an RPG game, first-person RPG game, where you are born as something called a godlike, where you have like mushrooms and horns and stuff in your face in a world where this is not normal. You're said to be touched by the gods, and you are sent from where you live because you, for some reason that I haven't figured out yet, you are the lord or the king of the world, this world where you live, thinks highly about you and are sending you out on a mission. And it's typical RPG style. It has been a lot compared to Skyrim, which I find fair. It is fair to compare it to Skyrim, and it's beautiful, and it's a lot of fun, and it is RPG at its best. I'm having a lot of fun. There are, of course, some like critiques about maybe I think it might be a bit like can sometimes be a bit stale because the NPCs are like sort of just put in a world to be around you, and you can feel that sometimes. And when we have had other games where the NPC sort of feels like they're living their own life, or that has nothing to do with you, it can feel a bit almost awkward. But in general, the story is fun. The way you play is fun. And what is really, really fun is that no matter what class you select in the start, that gives you some openings for some sentences and to be able to answer some stuff. But you can do whatever you want. If you want to one day use a wand and next day use a bow, you be my guest. You can do whatever you want and have fun. And it's sort of, I feel like it's sort of a bit easy fun. You just run around and are silly. And in that, there is a lot of accessibility. Just starting the game, you get a whole screen with accessibility settings, including things that UI size, including things like subtitle size, background for the subtitles, a lot of things. Might have to say that this game is not, you can't play it if you're blind. Yes, you can have UI size, so if you still have eyesight, there might be possibilities for you, and everything sort of is read out for you. But they do not have any high contrast mode. They do not have anything other than UI size, which I actually, weirdly enough, didn't find to be big enough when I'm playing this in my sofa, when I'm sitting in my living room playing, sitting in the sofa. And
yeah, this does seem to be one of those designed for a monitor text size games. Yeah,
because what is so weird is that even the letters, so whenever you can pick up a lot of books and notes and scrolls and everything to read them, but they give you the possibility to make the letter larger, but with larger they mean taller, and the the font that they have decided is so narrow that when I sit far away from the screen, I can't distinguish between where is black and where is the white background because it glides over each other. And this sounds so weird if you don't experience it, because I thought when I was sitting in my living room playing this with bigger size that maybe it was just my eyes. I know I need to go and get them checked again. But I asked my husband, hey, can you come in here and just, can you see what is there? And he says like, I can see it, but I need to squint and struggle. And he has perfect eyesight, which tells me that this game haven't been tested for these kind of things, which I am a bit disappointed about because it feels like sort of things slipping between the cracks. As I said, Obsidian, Xbox are two studios that are known to take accessibility serious. Why is these sort of simple things not being checked? Why? Also, when it is such a simple solution, the only thing you could have done is to do what they do in Elden Ring, or I think it's, I'm not thinking wrong. Anyways, a lot of other games where you press a button and you get the whole map, like the whole text just like pulled out on a black background with good text. They couldn't have done that. It's such a simple solution, but they haven't. And it also, that is something that goes through the whole game all the time. You have things that surprise you, go like, wow, I absolutely love this. And then you have things that is sort of basic level that hasn't been checked. So I'm a bit, I don't know what I feel about that. But in general, quite an accessible game. And I think it's really cool that one of the things you do, which is actually from Pillars of Eternity, is that when you are talking to any NPCs, you can always press a button and you get up dialogue, history, and lore, which means that you can scroll through what you have just been talking about. So if you have had a 10-minute conversation, you can scroll through everything and also get up the lore, which is something I love because the game doesn't baby you. There is no time in the game where you feel like, hey, like, have you played a RPG and you're supposed to be born in this world and you ask questions like, who is our god? And it's just like, you have been on this earth or planet for 24 years and you don't know about the god that everybody talks about every single day. Like, that doesn't make
I've been
sense.
playing for 5 minutes. I
Yes.
don't know.
Right. So it's both like just a win-win for both the player and the developer, because for the player you don't feel babied, and for the developers they don't need to add those awkward things where you sort of feel it's such an awkward and fake conversation to have. So it's a lore helper, and it's extremely good for cognitive accessibility and for people who have never ever played this series before. So impressive. I am happy about it, but I have to say, I am, due to like the text size and the problem with that, I'm a bit like put back, because I feel like I like to play these kinds of game in the living room, and I can't play it because I can't see. And yeah, you don't need to read these texts. These aren't everything that you need to get the story is always read out to you, or they talk to you out loud so you can just listen to it.
Yeah.
But I don't want that. This is an RPG game. I want to be into the game.
Even if the game voices things out loud, I find it much easier to process if I can read while listening.
Yeah.
And yeah, if I give one piece of advice to developers, I say this constantly. When you're trying to work out what size to make your text, make it as large as you think is reasonable, then go a couple of sizes bigger so it looks too big, and then offer a couple of sizes above that, and you might just about be have big enough options to be accessible to people. Like, you go a couple of steps a couple of times above what you think the largest size you need to offer is. You will never have people complain that you offered them too big of an option with text.
Like, never ever. Like, and the few people who will use that kind of text are just so used to not being thought about that they're just going to be happy.
Yeah.
But it also is, so it's so weird, Laura, because I want to love this game so much, but it's just that because it is so accessible, and because it is accessible and it is from two studios I really enjoy, I so want to be so excited here, which I am. But at the same time, it's just like, why? Why these? Like, on one side, you have every setting is explained to you. And that is so amazing. Like, when you do the change in UI, it actually shows the change. Like, it shows the change on the side of, like, examples a lot of times, but not always.
Yeah.
And when you are almost forced to play this game in first person, they have a third person option, which works, but then it even give you a warning that sometimes you will sort of miss things, which I experienced. I tried to play this game in third person. It does not work because I don't know where to pick things up.
This is why I've been putting off playing it, because I wasn't going to pick it up because I every bit of marketing showed it in first person, and a game of this length, if I play in first person, I'm probably going to get pretty chronically motion sick.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the kind of game I cared enough about to fight past that barrier. And then people kept saying, no, it has a third person mode. But every time I looked into it, it's like, oh no, the game recommends against using the third person mode.
Yeah.
I don't want to commit my time to a game that it's like, oh, we have a third person mode, it's just broken and you shouldn't use it. It's like, well, then don't put it in there if I'm going to have a bad time playing that way.
And like, what they could have done to measure it around this was two things. One, they could have given us auto pickup, like legit just auto pick up everything, because if they did that, there would not even be a problem. And to be honest, even in first person, I sometimes have problem picking things up because it's just complicated, because it's finicky. And number two, they could have just have given us like a bigger crosshair, because you have a crosshair, you can't do anything with it. Like, if you give me a big ass ball in the middle of the game, I would not care. I would just be happy to not be motion sick, and that is enough for me to help it. So it is sort of a hit and a miss. And going from Grounded, where I felt with Grounded, there was none of this, which I want to categorize as easy accessibility wins. They have ticked off all of them. Coming to this game, where they have these amazing things that is highly complicated to add, but then they're missing basics. I don't know what has happened here, and yeah, I will continue playing it, but it is a game where I need to play a bit, then have a pause, need to play a bit, then have a pause due to all of this combination. And also lately, because I figured out that there is a minimap, and the minimap is useless. So I keep on having to jump in and out of, because the minimap only shows you highlight like where things are, but it doesn't show anything. It's just a blank orb, which is useless. Like, I know I need to go north, but I don't know if it's a cliff there or a house there or anything. So yeah, it is. I will have fun with it. I will continue play it. But this is not the best RPG out there. With the top of the, like, people don't care about you existing in the world, but also at the same time they are just put in there. Like, you can steal from everything. Nobody cares if you steal from them, which is weird. I feel like they have missed the mark somehow. Will I still play it and have fun? Yes. Would I still play it for $70 if I didn't have it on Game Pass? Ooh, then I don't know. Not with these kinds of simple things that I feel like are missing. I don't know.
Yeah, I've come away from this being like, I'm still hearing as many positives as negatives about the game as I've been hearing elsewhere, but your specifics have really helped me to go, at this moment, this probably isn't a game for me.
Yeah.
But I at least have a better idea of where that I am on that line now.
Yeah, and like, I always sort of, I love myself an RPG, so for me this is, and it's such an easy game compared to like Yakuza, which I also love, but Yakuza is too complicated for me. This game like even has a story mode where you can still fight, but you can do like any, like you can just run, and you can run away from every fight. Like, I pissed off a whole city and ended up like every time I go into the place that everybody will attack me, no problem, I can just run through it. Like, it's so easy. So I will still play it, a comfort game, but I hope that they will have some updates here, because there is things I just don't understand. So yeah,
definitely. So with that done, we've got a couple of little newsy bits to talk about this week. Do you want to jump over to those?
Yep. Shall we start with the new from Sea of Thieves?
Sure. Let me grab that and pull it up. So, Sea of Thieves has got a new custom text overlay, which is designed to help with the readability of riddle maps. So basically, in Sea of Thieves, when you're trying to decode riddles, sometimes these are done like scribbled onto in-universe maps in ways that are not terribly easy to read as like regular text. There is now like a separate overlay you can use where it's like, hey, do you want us to just put this on the screen as plain text, pick a font size, what kind of background and text color do you want, to make that text easier to see and to be able to have it just on screen at all times.
Yep.
And this is the part of it that I really like, is not having to look at the map, look at the clue, look at the map, look at the clue, walk around. Is like, let me just have the clue somewhere on screen that I can keep referencing back to. And this allows you to do that. You can select where on the screen to just have plain text, the text of a riddle available on screen. And that seems really cool.
It is. Again, can we send this article to Obsidian and Avowed? No, but like, these things are not only accessibility, it's just so quality of life of every single game. Because the most boring thing in a game is to be annoyed of small things like this. I understand the charm of, but it looks good, but that is where options comes in. We always say accessibility is not options, but accessibility is also options at the same time.
Yes.
And oh my god, this is where options just like, give us the option. The person can decide for themselves, and the developer can still have being the design and being creative and having fun with all of these things. But still, people can decide if it's just too much for them. And I love it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, Sea of Thieves continues to be a really great example of an ongoing live service game that it feels like almost every time that game gets a patch, they add something new accessibility wise. Like
Oh
they
yeah.
really that team at Rare really recognizes release date is not the finish line, and you can just keep adding accessibility little by little. Seemingly niche things as they come up. Go, oh yeah, we hadn't thought of that, and someone in the community brought it up. Why not add it? And that's wonderful to see.
And it reminds me of something I tweeted about the other day about like how if you have like focus on one thing at a time. When a lot of times I do consultant with like accessibility, the people I talk to want to do 8 million things when they start the game because they are so inspired and they want everybody to be able to play their game, and they have like this wish and burn for not to be exclusive. And I love that, but it in many cases it's not realistic. It's not realistic for time, it's not realistic for the knowledge you have and the team size and everything like that. So I always say to them, focus on one thing and then be good at that one thing. Be really, really good at that one thing. And then next project, next game, you can focus on the second game. And then you can go back and add it into the other game if it is something that can be added. Like
you can add things a little at a time. It doesn't have to be all at once.
No.
Everything you add is a new thing that you've done.
Yes, and also build knowledge, solid knowledge on one topic or one like size of the game. That is knowledge that will make it 1,000 times easier next time. Also because you add it in early in start of development when you think about it and you discuss the game. You already know what to implement and what to do not implement. So Sea of Thieves is a brilliant example of that. It's a brilliant example of you can always go back and change things, but start with what you need to have. Start with one thing and then go in and add and add and add as much when you learn more things. So it's brilliant.
Exactly. Another one that not a huge amount to say about, but it's just nice to acknowledge that this is happening, is there's a couple of award events happening in the coming months that have accessibility awards coming up in them that people can nominate and vote for, which is always nice to celebrate that people are recognizing good accessibility work. One of them is the Develop Conference Awards, the Develop Star Awards, which will be having the Best In-Game Accessibility Award, which, from a look at it, is very much a which game is doing the best overall at accessibility between the 1st of April last year and the 31st of March this year. Going, which game is, as a complete package, doing the best in terms of accessibility. And then a slightly different focus of award, we have the MCV Develop Awards, which are having the Accessibility Innovation of the Year, which is an award that is more focused on, hey, your game may not have done every single thing under the sun, but did it do something new and creative with accessibility that we want to highlight as an exciting step forward in accessibility?
Yes, and
I think those are two very valid approaches to take on celebrating accessibility.
And please, if you're sitting on a game that you know will have any kind of accessibility that can fit into these two categories, do go and enter your game. As somebody who is twice nominated for an award, it helps. I don't know how to tell you this, but it helps. When you're going to do things and you're going to tell your number or ask somebody for money, to say things like, I have been nominated, it helps. Because everybody understands it. Nominations is something everybody understands. So
people who know what they're talking about thought you were important.
Yes,
that's helpful.
Yes.
Even if you don't win an award, put yourself forward, go for it.
Yeah, and
get
also
in that short list.
And also people outside the gaming sphere that has no idea what gaming actually is, when they hear you have been nominated, they're just like, aha, and they might open money for you.
Yeah.
So do it. Go and be a bit upfront and say hey, we have this. Or if you know anybody who has something good, go and nominate them, because people deserve it. Yeah.
And then, do you want to introduce the last story we've got on the list for today?
Yeah, accessibility. Microsoft will has a Ability Summit, 15 years of accessibility, 18th of March this year. And what they're going to do is they say, take part in the future of accessibility through AI. And this
Mm-hmm.
is both exciting and scary. As somebody who we have a nuanced look at AI,
Yeah.
and I'm really looking forward to hear about this. But I think it's worth discussing a bit about accessibility and AI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had this conversation before the show started
Yep.
of whether we wanted to talk about this, and I think where we sort of landed was AI as a term is being used really broadly right now to mean a lot of things, some of which
Yes.
are terrible, immoral, and destroying the planet, and others of which are completely morally fine and not burning the planet alive, and really shouldn't be lumped under the same
Yes.
phrase as, you know. And, like, I think it's important to make that distinction, because, like,
Yeah.
obviously a lot of the time when people talk about AI, what they mean is generative AI, where huge amounts of data, usually stolen images and text and video from the internet that were taken without consent, are used to train a model that is hugely power and water inefficient
Yeah.
to generate regurgitated plagiarism content,
Yeah.
and that is terrible. But AI also, you know, can be used, like when we talk about the context of accessibility. If you've ever used a piece of software that you talk into a microphone and it translates what you've said into on-screen text, you know, perhaps like for turning voice chat into on-screen text as an accessibility feature, that is using AI to recognize that word sounds like my training data set. That's probably this word. Um,
Yes.
there are things like the ways that certain eye tracking tools work is based in part on AI, on data sets to recognize what eyes look like and what and to track them properly.
Yep.
Accessibility, there's a lot of accessibility features that make use of AI technologies that are not the thing that we are like, this is a terrible plagiarism
Yep.
machine burning the planet. And it's easy to have people see AI as a word and panic and freak out about it a bit.
Yeah. And it is important to remember that every, well, I can't say every, but I assume every mid-sized to big games that have been released the last couple of 10 years have been using AI. AI is part of the way we develop games now. But as you say, there is a big difference, which is so sad that AI has just been a word for horribleness when it is sections of AI that is extreme horrible, but other sections that people use every single day and that aren't necessarily horrible.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, yeah?
Yeah, no, continue.
Oh, yeah. I'm always cautious when I see people talking about AI use in accessibility, not because I don't think there are good, like I recognize there are good uses of it, but I'm also very cautious because I've seen conversations in the accessibility space in the past few months particularly about, oh, can we create a program to automate making this visible for players with colorblindness?
Yes.
Can we automate an overlay that will turn our inaccessible website accessible? And the fear I have about AI is people trying to create programs to automate accessible design rather than getting experts and people affected in to make custom designed accessible design are going to lead to accessible design that does not work, or worse, people thinking they've made their thing accessible when they haven't, and advertising it as accessible and it turns out not to be.
Yeah.
Like, those are the reasons why I'm like, I am cautious when AI as a topic comes up, while knowing it has really good application possibility.
And like the biggest like horrible thing I see in the accessibility sphere is that I once came over somebody recommending AI to train you or the people going to work with people with accessibility needs to get them to sort of understand how life is as a disabled person. That is bullshit. Stop with that as like now. Yeah, of course you can do it just because of curiosity. It will never, you need to listen to people. And it pisses me off when we start thinking that a computer can be similar to the experience of an actual person. Just listen to them. You need to have people in to talk to, which is why I'm curious about this, because what are their way of like looking at this? Is it like through the amazing tools, as you say, that can recognize your face and recognize when you like take up an eyebrow, and that means jump in the game? They need AI to make that work. Is it when you use it to understand that when somebody makes a sound, they mean jump? They need AI to understand this, to make sure that the game is playable for you. These are amazing developments in the sphere and things I would love to hear more about. But are they going to start talking about where you shove away the humans to think that a computer can replace us? Then it's scary. So I'm curious. I think I want to listen to this and hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
Because no matter how much we like or dislike AI is come to stay. It will not. Yeah. It will be regulated, which is a good thing. I love that, but it is come to stay. It will not go away. Microsoft have pushed it. If you use any of Microsoft's systems lately, you will have seen it with Copilot, which used to be for me the accessibility tool. It's just
I hate that they were just like, nah, forget about that accessibility tool that's already named it. We want the name for something else. The accessibility tool can rename it.
I hated it.
It feels so dismissive, right?
And it destroyed everything people have made with CEO of like accessibility stuff. It's
so many of my old articles I've had to go back and one by one change the title in, because like I refer to a feature that Sightless Combat recently I think was talking about trying to set the mode up on his Xbox and couldn't find it because he hadn't heard that the name had been changed. There was no message, just nothing by the name Copilot mode was on his Xbox anymore.
And also that Microsoft like have the AI that now is like systematically figuring out what you're using your computer to. I don't want that. I am okay with using AI. I don't have anything, but that will be on my terms, not a random system spying on me. To be really dramatic. So
as you say, like, AI is here to stay. The best we can do is be aware of the conversations happening around its use, and
we need to have the conversations.
Yeah, if there's stuff that comes up in this Microsoft thing that I'm like, that is not an ethical use of AI in accessibility, I want to know that they've said it so that I can talk about why it's a problem.
Yes, and I'm glad that they're having these and welcoming to like let people learn about it, because then we can actually take that power back in our hands and actually make a statement if we don't like it. And we can make like use the powers we have with social media to let them know if there's something we do not like. So I think I'm going to take a look at this and we're going to link all of these awards and stuff in the description below so that people can take a look for themselves if they want to. And I'm looking forward to hear what other people thinks about this.
So I think that's everything we got for this episode. Where can people find you on the internet, Arevia, if they want more of the things that you do, or haven't so much been doing recently but might be doing in the future?
Will be doing in the future. They can find me everywhere online under the name Arevia, except for TikTok because somebody stole my name, where I am Arevia Gaming. And Laura, where can people find you?
People can find me at Laura K Buzz pretty much everywhere on the internet. In particular, youtube.com/Laura K Buzz is where you can find Abletop. It'll be up 5 PM UK every Wednesday for the next, I think we've got 5 more weeks of them going up, so go check those out. Thank you everyone for watching. We hope you've enjoyed, and we will be back with another Ctrl Alt Access in a couple of weeks. Bye!
Bye.